Want to live longer and better? I'm Dr. Jess. I'm a physical therapist, and in this podcast, I bring you real, science-backed strategies from physical health providers, mental health providers, and nutrition experts, so you can build strength, protect your mind, and fuel your body for decades to come. Longevity starts here. Most people think they have a motivation problem, but really they have a consistency gap. Longevity isn't built on intensity, it's built on rhythm. So that's what we're talking about today, is the barrier of consistency when we're trying to lead that active lifestyle and get longevity in our lives. And remembering that consistency isn't about being perfect, it's about showing up more days than you don't. So John, talking about consistency, how often do we see this in the clinic?
Every day, all day.
This is like number one. This is one of the number one issues that we run into, because our big thing here is that we are helping people kind of get to that next layer of life, of getting out of pain and fear avoidance and all the things that happen with injuries and illness and whatnot, and back into the active lifestyle. And what happens? Like so often, right? We get started, we're motivated, like making these really good gains, and then the drop off, right? And it's natural. It's natural that happens. This isn't like no, you're a bad person because, this middle part of any sort of lifestyle change, this is when it isn't as fun, right? It's not novel.
Absolutely.
It's not new. It's not exciting. We've already gone through that phase at the beginning where you're like, oh, wow, I'm learning all of this great stuff. This is so interesting. I didn't know X, Y, or Z. And now you're kind of in it and you're in the groove. So
Absolutely.
Like that newness.
Our brains crave novelty.
Yeah, it's fun. It's different. It's,
right.
It's not mundane. That's lifestyle change is mundane at points, right? It's things that we do every day, and that's what builds the, longevity, because these are practices that we implement, whether it's how we eat, how we sleep, how we exercise, how we move, how we manage our stress. All of these we know help with longevity and help our bodies function at their best. And doing it every single day is kind of like wah wah.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wait, nobody likes repetition.
Yeah. Of the same thing, right? And I think that's where the reframe comes in, though, right? Because is it the same? So it can feel the same, but when we're implementing whatever it is for lifestyle change, how we do it can be a little bit different. We can change it up. We can have things that we grow with. So let's say, for an example, right, because we want novel, we want new, we want different, that's what our brains are craving. So we can find ways to do that. So if food, for example, is what you're working on for eating, so change up the recipe, right? Try new things. If these couple of things were working well, you don't have to keep eating the same thing every day if you want something different. So that's a way to continue to make it novel and new, and you feel like you're always growing. So what are other ways that, John, you've been able to make things not as mundane and keep it going?
Well, sometimes, we have to think about our mindset. So, when it comes to, doing mundane tasks, maybe the task that you're doing is mundane and you're doing it over and over again, but the results that you get are always different. So if you're going to the gym every day, go to the gym every day and work out. If you're doing the same workout, do the same workout. But what you're going to see is in the beginning, you're going to lose weight. Then you're going to, there's always a plateau in anything you do. There's going to be a short plateau, and then you're going to move into gaining muscle. So it's not going to be what you do is the same, but what you get out of it is not. So sometimes it's changing my mindset and saying, okay, well, I know that I'm going to do the same thing over and over and over again every day or every other day or whatever it is. But then it's knowing that what I'm getting out of it is always going to be a little different.
And I think the mindset is, that's everything. That's everything in life. It's how we look at things that helps us either push through or not. And I know for me, I like results. That's like anybody does. And so, for example, with my running, it gets a little boring sometimes, right? Running year round. So that's why I schedule things in that I train for. So that way, we kind of take our break season over the summer where we decrease mileage. It's so stinking hot that it's just smart to decrease mileage anyway. And then as the weather starts getting better, we start adding mileage. And then I sign up for races in the winter and spring. So that way I've got something to train for. And so I'm still running the same amount of days per week, but now I feel like I'm training for something. And then in the summer, I'm not necessarily training for something, but I'm giving myself that little bit of a break with like cutting back mileage. And so then it's even something else to look forward to of like, oh, as we add mileage, but don't worry, like summer will come and then I'll cut it back again. And so like there's ways that you can kind of ebb and flow as well. So you're still leading the active lifestyle. The activity of running is for me is still the same, right? One foot in front of the other for a while. And you keep it interesting. Not everybody likes races, not everybody likes to sign up for events, but there's ways to get out of that middle slump, right? And because it's like in the middle part of anything, it's just not like you don't have massive results. Like you haven't run the race, you haven't like gained the muscle, you're not really looking maybe how you want to look, you're not as efficient with something as you'd like to be, and that's when it's kind of like you feel like you're in the slog of it. So that's when dopamine drops.
The motivation trap.
It is, yes. And so in the beginning, dopamine's high because we're like, yay, we're doing it. And in the end, dopamine's high because we're like, wow, we did it, right? But in the middle is when it's kind of low because we're not getting that sense of like accomplishment, and it's not novel. So that's when the mindset shift is like super important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I always like making sure that we have tools and strategies. Well, one, we understand why is this so common? Like, it doesn't make you lazy. It doesn't make you, like something's wrong with you. Like, all of us get into the slump in the middle. Like, it's not new, it's not novel, and we don't have results yet. And so that happens to every single person, by the way. So, like, we know it's common. So mindset shift is one really nice strategy. Another great strategy is going to be essentially like what we're talking about with like how you schedule things, change things up, progress things in the gym, try new recipes. So like still trying to keep some novelty there, things to look forward to is going to be like a great way to like kind of, keep you pointed in the right direction. And then other things that you want to kind of, build into is like get into the rhythm of it. And so like every single day you brush your teeth, right? So there's a rhythm of your day. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, whatever that rhythm is, the more you build whatever it is for your longevity plan into your rhythm, then it doesn't need to be novel and new anymore. And it doesn't need to be giving you immediate results. So for example, a morning routine that includes stretching and mobility is just really great for everybody, right? Like you haven't been moving all night long. And if you want to continue to move well, which means your range of motion, neck and shoulder and hips and legs and spine, then a gentle mobility routine is just wonderful. Pair that with some breathing and like you'll pretty much, unless something like major happens like an injury, like you'll be able to maintain your range of motion. So that helps you with your walking, your running, your balance, your posture. It literally helps with everything. So this is something that most all of my patients have some sort of morning routine that we start in therapy when we're in active therapy, and that is lifestyle change, right? This is just how we think. And so if somebody comes back later on, like years later, and they're like, oh, hey, now my shoulder's hurting, I want to see what you think. It's like, they're still doing that morning routine of like, hey, I know I don't feel good when I don't do it. Like I'm more rigid, I'm more bent over, I don't breathe as well. Like it's like crazy. It's the simplest things. And if I just do it every day, I already tied it to after I brush my teeth, I do this, or I do it first thing before I get out of bed, whatever works for them. Then it's like all of a sudden it's like now you're not even like thinking about doing it because it's just part of your rhythm. It takes time. It takes time and consistency to get that into your rhythm. And I think sometimes you do have to prove to yourself that it is important enough to put into your rhythm. But there's plenty of things that we put into the rhythm of the day that are already there that we can tie into. And so that's typically how we're going to stack anything in that's going to be helpful. Mindfulness at the end of the day, right? Do some guided meditation before bed. You're already lying down. It's already dark. You're not doing anything anyway, right? So like do some meditation, right? End your day by letting go of the day. Don't carry that into the next day. And so like, it's just, there's going to be better ways to be consistent instead of like waiting to think about the best time to meditate, for example. That's, for me, it's never going to happen. If I like think about like, wait until I'm available,
Not gonna
That doesn't
happen.
happen. That doesn't happen.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are things, John, that you've kind of built into your rhythm? Like where it's actually a rhythm now and not just like a checkbox that you're like, oh, I need to get that done.
So, I mean, for me in my apartment complex, I've made it a point to, when I park my car, instead of just walking straight to my door, I just do a lap around I live in like a cul-de-sac of buildings.
Hmm.
And like when I have my daughter, it's like super fun for us because we like race each other and we get to race each other around the buildings. But it's something that I wasn't doing before, but that I'm able to do now that didn't take anything away from me. It takes 5 or 10 minutes for us to walk around. It's not like that time is detrimental to me, but it is making a huge impact on my evenings. So it's just kind of tacking it on
Huge.
to you're already parking the car, you're already getting out, you already have to walk around the building to get to my apartment. Why not just go ahead and do a lap real quick and then call it a night?
Exactly. Yeah, we just adopted a dog. John's going to be house sitting for us when we're away in a little while. Thank you. So anyway, we have been doing evening walks again with the dog, and so it's something that we used to do when we had our old dog, and then we just kind of got out of the habit of doing our evening walks. And now, like, as soon as like I get home from work, it's like, all right, let's go, like, let's get that walk in. And it's just great because the kids are outside, the dog's outside. Like, it's just a nice way to connect without the, like, like, what's the homework tonight, what's this, but like all the tasks, right? Task, all this stuff that
Right.
needs to get done. It's that mindfulness and that connecting, and then also teaching the kids like this is an active lifestyle. So yeah, they work out with me in the backyard or ride bikes while I run, but it's also nice to just kind of show that it's not just about like exercising, but it is about connecting, and that social connection is really important. And teaching them how to, like, care for something, like an animal,
Absolutely.
and make sure that he gets what he needs, and we have to think about his needs. And so then that kind of helps all of us consider, like, what are my needs? Like, if he needs to exercise, right, and we value that, then do I also need to exercise? So that's been a lot of what
Absolutely.
we've been talking about in the house with the boys, of like, he's younger, and it's important that if he doesn't get enough exercise, he's going to have behavior, right? He's going to seek out attention in a negative way by barking, or maybe trying to, like, be a little bit too, like, aggressive about getting your attention, like bumping
Hmm.
into you. But when he has plenty of exercise, he doesn't seek attention in a negative way. He's much calmer. And so it's been really cool to see how that understanding through an animal, that we can apply that same concept to ourselves, of like, if we take care of our needs and we take care of our body, we're calmer. We're just calmer in
Absolutely.
general. We're not so hyped. We're not so anxious. It doesn't treat anxiety, right? But we feel calmer just by going for a walk. And, like, isn't that cool? It's so resetting to our nervous system.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then you implement it daily, and now all of a sudden it's like the boys now. I'm like, all right, we're in. They're like, okay, I'm gonna get this. I'll get this. Get my shoes on. It's just part of our routine now. So it's rhythm. So
It's
that's,
all
like, I
about
think,
finding the rhythm.
yep. And that's the beauty of consistency, is that now you start to see those gains, and you start, like, feeling like, wow, like all of a sudden it's like I don't feel as rushed trying to get our evening things done, even though I'm taking time to put this walk in, but I actually don't feel as rushed, which is kind of cool. So, um, and that's the benefit. The benefit is consistency. It's not more
Absolutely.
complicated than that. Yeah. And on days that we change it up a little bit, or it's not the same time, or something comes up, we don't beat ourselves up about it either, right? It's, on the weekends, it's a little bit, the timing might be different. We still go for walks, but it's
Hmm.
not in the same exact rhythm as it is during the week, just because of that transition. And I think that's kind of where people get a little bit caught up too, is like thinking it has to be this perfect rhythm, when a rhythm ebbs and flows. So if it's raining, it's going to be different than if it's too hot or too cold or whatever. It's the rhythm just keeps going. So it looks different some days than other days. It is not a rigid system.
Right.
So the minute it gets too rigid is when the all or nothing thinking comes in. And that's when the fall off typically happens. If I can't be perfect, then I just won't do it at all. And I'm telling you, a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. Every
Absolutely.
single day, a little bit is more than none. And that's the win, is that it was a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also feel like the other part of the fall off too can be, if we expect our results to happen too fast.
Yeah. I mean, I want it yesterday. So
Right.
I get that, you know?
People think they go to the gym for one day and they're lean, mean fighting machine.
Yeah.
When they realize that it doesn't happen overnight, a lot of people tend to give up.
Yeah. And it can feel, if we're not tracking our goals, and that comes back into goal setting, if we're not being super realistic about expectations and goals, then it's very easy to kind of feel like you're not making any headway. And I mean, that's the reality of physiology, is when we're looking for changes, typically not going to be super fast if it's something that's going to be sustainable.
Right.
And sustainable is the key.
Hmm.
And like weight loss is a perfect example of that. If you're losing weight rapidly, you've got to be very careful, because that is when metabolism can be destroyed and you start eating muscle. Your body just eats itself, which is why you're losing weight. But if you cut that muscle, you're going to destroy the metabolism. So, and it's just not sustainable in many cases,
Right.
So and it's the same thing with anything. So it's really trying to say, I'm going to set this goal for 6 months or a year, whatever it might be, and you got to write it down. It's way too far away, way too far for whatever that target might be for like the long-term goal that you really,
Hmm.
really want. So you got to back it all the way back into something that you can see something sustainable in a week or two. And then again, a week or 2 weeks after that, and then a week or 2 weeks after that, where you see that you are progressing towards that long-term goal. And then if you hit the plateau for whatever it is that you're working towards, and you hit the plateau, now you've got to figure out, okay, why?
Hmm.
Don't beat yourself up. Don't give up. There's something's going on, and if somebody can't give you an answer and it's you just ask one person, then ask somebody else. They might have, you know, they might have a better answer. I just talked to somebody today that's like, I've asked everybody in my life about this thing that's going on, and all these doctors and all these people, and yeah, I guess I'm just gonna have to live in pain. Like, okay, well, you're here today, so let's take a look at it. like this person was defeated before they even came in, and so it was nothing that difficult.
Yeah.
It's just no pill will fix it, and you can't take a picture of it. Welcome to a lot of how medicine works. It's like sometimes we do need to kind of get our hands on and see it, but the mindset was, it's just not, I just have to live with this. It's like, okay, well, maybe not, let's look. And so when we hit a plateau, it might not be a plateau, is what I'm saying. You might just need to shift some stuff up a little bit, and then boom, you get back out of it. So don't give up on the plateau too soon if it's not where you want to be. Like, if you're fine there, if that's your goal and you're like, I plateaued, this is what I wanted, good, maintain where you are. But otherwise, like, not unless you absolutely have to for some reason, like you have a neurodegenerative illness, Parkinson's disease as an example. Yeah, there's going to be certain goals that we're just not going to be able to hit. You're not going to walk normally and run marathons again. That's part of like a progressive illness.
Right.
But unless you have something like super progressive like that, for the most part, we shoot for the stars. Because like, why wouldn't you? I mean,
Right.
if we hit the moon, great. But if we're shooting for the moon and we never get there, then it feels kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's the goal of consistency, is to like actually get there, and don't let the plateau like mess you up in the middle of it, whatever you're working towards.
Well, I feel like also, like with the plateau, I think in today's world, we have this mindset of if we miss one day of something. So if you're going to the gym, some people go 7 days a week and just do different things, and that's okay. Like, you do you. But they think that if they miss a day, then, the world is ending.
Yeah, I know.
And,
It's the same thing with like home programs with me.
yeah.
We've got an app, and we can kind of track their progress and how they're doing, and and they'll come in and they're like, some people, I mean, it's, they're not doing enough, so that's encouragement. And then other people, I mean, they're coming and they're just like so down on themselves because they only did their home program 6 days and not 7. I'm like, whoa, killer. Like, you are crushing it. Are you kidding? Like, I know, but like Sunday, I just, this and this and this and all this happened and I didn't have time. And it's just like, I know you're going to be mad at me. I was like, I am not mad at you. I think you're doing amazing. And
Right.
grace is a good thing. Show yourself grace and
Right.
kindness. Yeah.
Well, and I think, as people in our minds, we take like a missed day or a missed something as failure. And then, let's be honest, in today's world, nobody really takes constructive criticism well. And everything, most people take it as a jab at them. And so instead of going in with grace and giving ourselves healthy constructive criticism and say, okay, well, you missed a day, that's okay. We'll start fresh the next day and see if we can make it a whole week. Like set a goal to make it, an extra day than what you did last time. But instead of that, we think it's a failure. And then once we feel like what we're doing is a failure, we give up.
Yeah. And the mindset shift for that, for failure, is that that's how we learn, right? So for the, why did you not stay consistent with it? Identify that, identify the why, and you just found your weak point. That's not a failure. You just learned a really good bit of information about yourself, about your schedule, about your routine, about something you just learned. So now it's not a failure. It's just a learning opportunity to improve yourself. And that's like, believe me, I was like perfectionism. It was like my whole being for a good part of my life growing up until I took some time after undergrad before I did my graduate work and lived abroad. And it was like the first time in my life where I learned how to like show myself grace and not be perfect. And it was great because it was the first time in my life when I wasn't graded at some point, because you're in school and you're constantly graded. And if you don't get an
Mm-hmm.
A, then it's failing. And like a B plus was like an utter like I'm awful, and nobody told me that. That was
Right.
me putting it on myself. Like my family didn't put that stress on me. I felt like a B was like, I obviously like failed this test. That's
Right.
just not the case, right? Like you got like 80% of the questions right. You only missed 20%, but that was like not an option in my head before that. And so taking some time to back away, and I took 2 years, mainly because I just want to learn another language, and I felt inherently like I needed some more real world experience before I did graduate school, and get away from academia for a little bit. And it was probably the best thing I could have ever done, to really have some just space to think about, who do I want to be? Like, what kind of person do I want to be? And like, why do I have this drive to constantly be perfect when I don't need to be? Why do I do this to myself?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really worked through a lot of that, and it was great. Then I started graduate school. I still like was summa cum laude, right? But I wasn't like constantly stressed. I mean, I went to bed at 10 p.m. and got up at 6, and if it was after 10, I was like, it'll be good enough for tomorrow. I was
Right.
focused during class. And it was, I wasn't like nervous before practicals, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. I was like, I feel pretty confident. So they ask me a question, I'll give them the answer that I know. And it was like my classmates would be like, why aren't you freaking out? I'm like, I mean, it's not like I'm going to miss a meal because I got the answer wrong. Like the perspective was different.
Right. Right.
When you see real stress and like legitimate, like, where am I going to live type situations, when I was volunteering in South America, there was that was legitimate. Like, that was stress that I had never experienced before. Like, I never had to worry about, am I going to find future safety? That's stress. An answer on a test, move on, answer it, move on,
Right.
if I missed my run, I'm still going to survive. Like, I'm okay. Right. And so it's like, I think sometimes when we take a step back and we really look at like, what's driving this in us, and we better understand that, everything changes, and all of a sudden, like, we allow ourselves to be human, because humans mess up all the time. We are full of flaw. I mean, we are. So we're not robots, right?
Right.
I run late all the time. It's like, John knows, he's constantly having to like be like, sorry, she's behind. And when people get a little fussy, I'm like, listen, I'm not a robot. Okay, I don't just turn on and turn off every hour at the time. I don't work like that. So I do my best to meet each and every person where they are and make sure we resolve what we need to resolve, and then we move on. But if you need a robot that's exactly here at every single moment, at every single time, it's not here. I left that a couple decades ago. Honestly, it's coming up on 2 decades now that I was in South America. It's like, I'm not doing it. It's just not me. I hold on to too much. So that, I think, is a big part of how we are able to implement things into our lives and be consistent with it, because we realize that, like, when I show myself grace and I get through the slog of whatever it is that is a little bit mundane, I ultimately feel better. I feel calmer. I feel more energized. I feel more rested, whatever it might be. And you notice that benefit that you have, that's not this huge benefit every day of these crazy gains, but this little bit of benefit, it's like always there. And you're like, huh, I like that. That feels good. Right? And so from there, that's the rhythm. It's always going to be a struggle. It's leading a life with a longevity focus is not taking the path of least resistance. It's taking the path that's what's best for you. So it means that it might take longer. It might cost a little bit more money. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It might require more of your attention. It might require more patience. It might require a little bit more planning ahead of time. But none of it should be anything that is overwhelming. Right? So none of this, adding consistency with walks, eating the rainbow, kind of really focusing on stress management, and then how we recover, with rest. Like, none of that should be this, like, overwhelming, like, highly perfectionism way of living. It's not. It's the opposite of perfectionism. It's about the ebbs and flows. Eating seasonally, like, that's, an ebb and a flow, right? It's whatever's currently fresh and available, right? So I think the more that you can think like that, the better, and encourage the people around you. Encourage somebody that is feeling maybe a little bit rigid or getting a little bit hard on themselves, like being that voice of reason to say, like, wait, are you, like, I think you're crushing it. I think you're doing great. And oftentimes you'll hear, and I hear this with patients all the time, but I'm not doing this yet, and it's like, and that's okay. They're like, well, what? I'm like, because you're doing this. That, like, celebrate it. Pause and celebrate where you are, because it's further than you were. It's okay that it's not here yet. So that's, like, we don't get every answer in life, like, right away. I mean, I would love it, but, like, we don't. So
right.
It's like, pause, take the breath, and celebrate the win. And that's where the dopamine stays in there. That's where we keep getting those hits of, like, yes, I feel great. I feel good, because you allowed yourself to celebrate. So even the smallest win. So
absolutely.
If there's somebody in your life that you feel would benefit from hearing this, like, feel free to share this episode. The whole point is to just share information and dialogue that is helpful and encouraging for people around us and ourselves. And, if there's anything that you have questions about or would like to have an episode on, I'll just leave it in the comments below, and, we'll do our best to formulate an episode to kind of answer that question. And the number one thing is to stay motivated, show yourself grace and kindness, and stay tuned for next week, because we've got more information coming out.